going. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
everything theater. Yes, we do. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And even in this crazy year of 2020, which blessedly is wrapping up already, right?
So soon, so soon.
There's still a lot of theater happening, and a lot of folks who, if you will, make theater are making their way through all of this and looking to tomorrow. And we've got one of those guests with us today. Actually, we've been trying to get this guest on with us since we started our podcast.
I remember having our very first interview and, talk with each other about what's it going to look like, who do we want, and right on there, Freddy Ramirez.
Choreographer, dancer, and great guy all around, and also a good puppy. Hi, Freddy.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
We're delighted to have you. You know, I said to you before we started the official, you're an adjunct at Union College, but we've got to go. You're an adjunct there because you have, I suspect you've been dancing pretty much your entire life. You've been on Broadway, you've toured, you have done it all.
I have been very blessed. At an early age, I've been dancing, just kind of family dancing and performing in school, and then got into the colleges and studying and going into dance company, performing, traveling, and then going into the musical theater world. I've been very, very blessed, and I'm honored to say that I'm still doing it. It's tough, but, still working it.
You dance, you do every style of dance.
I try my best, yes. I trained in many styles. I was in early
What's your fave?
Get as much as you possibly can, yes.
Do you have a favorite?
Yes, I love my Latin dancing. I'm Puerto Rican. I was raised Latin dancing, and tango is great. And I also love my jazz.
And so where did you train? We haven't talked to many dancers on the podcast yet. So tell us a little bit about your journey on that path.
Sure. So I'm originally from the Bronx, and I went in the high school in the Bronx. I started with the musical theater program there. I quickly found a Broadway Dance Center, which at the time was on 57th Street, West 57th Street. Now it's currently on 44th, I believe. But yes, I took street jazz, tap, regular jazz, ballet. I got myself completely immersed in the whole world of dance. I then continued into my college years, and I fell into modern dance class. And it just felt so, the only way I can explain it is like Mother Earth. It sounds really silly, but it felt like I finally found home. From all the other dances, it felt like I finally found home. Now, I did just explain that my favorite is Latin dancing. That's how I was raised dancing. But this modern style of dance was so it felt like a glove, like I slid right into it, and I never stopped. The teacher at the university that I went to had a modern dance company, and I actually apprenticed with them in my second year of college. And in my third year of college, I was one of their principal dancers. And
was this at New Paltz?
This was in New Paltz. And we got a chance to work on Maida Weathers' choreography, Colin Connor, Cunningham Studios. The teacher was a Cunningham performer. And so it was just wonderful. I got connected to the Cunningham Studios through that. And in addition to her company, I started dancing with another instructor who is a ex-Paul Sanizzardo company member. And she took me to Italy to perform. So I got a chance in college to travel around the States and the world performing in this new style of dance that was just so wonderful and fulfilling.
Freddie, a lot of, I started in the Bronx too. Okay, yeah. So, nobody, Bronx kids you don't think of as dancers. Maybe Brooklyn, but not Bronx, Queens for sure, right? But and Long Island kids. But that's against, if you will, and I don't mean to be rude or anything like that, but in a way, it's against type. You're supposed to like the Yankees, and how does that, how do you find your way? And I ask because there are probably folks who are listening who've got kids who seem to have a love of something that's not mainstream in their community.
That's a very valid point. It's funny because last night I just had a Zoom meeting with friends of mine from my high school years. We all reconnected, and this was our second. So every month we're going to connect once a month, and everyone's experience in high school is so different, and mine as well. Most of them went into different fields. Obviously, like you said, you wouldn't think of someone from the Bronx having gone into the field of performance and whatnot, and most of them did not. I, however, did. In that group, I was the one that actually ventured out. And my experience of high school was so different from theirs. I felt like it was magical. And it was because of the performing in high school, and the people that, are rooting you on and uplifting you, and the energy and the passion that you're filled with, that it makes it, everything is possible. There's no such thing as impossible. And you have that power. And I think that power and that energy lifted me from what people would normally not do to do it. It empowered me to say, I don't care if anyone else does it, but this is what I want to do. And I continued on with that journey, and I haven't stopped. So if someone out there is in high school now and they feel like, oh, maybe this is what nobody else wants to do, this, nobody else has a passion for this, but I would say, do it, because you're going to make the mark, because you're different and you're taking a different route.
I think Richard Gatta talked about that too. He came to dance out of, performance first, but it was dance really spoke to his heart. And a friend of mine from college, Richard J. Alexander, tells the story that when he was a kid, he would grab, I think it was 25 cents to go to a tap class in Solvay, outside of Syracuse. And those tap shoes have really, goodness, taken him a long way.
It just takes a little art in your life to just fill you so much that it's empowering. It's very uplifting.
So what do you make the switch from being a performer to being a choreographer? And we, as Ellen and I know, sometimes you get a group of folks who getting us dancing is interesting.
Well, living in the city, it was easy to perform. I obviously since moved up here with my husband and our child. We have a beautiful home that we can afford because it's up here and not in the city. It's tough. I was actually commuting back and forth between Broadway and up here. And although it's easy enough because it's only 2.5 hours door to door, and it gives you time to just, be by yourself, listen to music, kind of energize, research other things that you're going to be working on. It's tough when you have a child. And I always said that if I was lucky enough to be a father, I would be there. Everything else would be second. And I said, I don't want to uproot us and bring us back down to the city. We're going to stay up here. So I'm going to transition. If Broadway will have him back when he's old enough to continue his educational journey here without having me have to be, present every second, then maybe, I'll do the commute thing. However, it's impossible for me to do performance. I'm a union member, and the only equity house is Capitol Repertory Theater. And so I was lucky enough to perform a couple shows there, and since then have transitioned to choreography because they needed a choreographer, and I fit the bill, and we work extremely well together, and we have created some magical pieces. I'm so honored to have been able to do that with them. Maggie is amazing, and Josh is absolutely out of this world, incredible. And so because I can't perform in all the shows there, I have the opportunity to choreograph, and I have trained in choreography. So I have that both sides of the coin, if you will, that I can perform in a show and I can choreograph in a show. And I think right now the right fit for the shows that have been produced there are choreographer.
And I love too, because you obviously choreograph big musicals, but I met you doing Miss Bennet Christmas at Pemberley, which is not a musical, but I loved how Maggie brought you in and had you choreograph these beautiful transitions between scenes, and people talked about these transitions afterwards, about, you know, it was so beautiful and seamless. So, you know, that's really interesting that a lot of theaters bring in choreographers to do more movement work, you know, not just, you know, a full dance, but training the actors how to move and be in the style and all that.
Yes, I agree. Not many people realize that plays have a soundtrack to it. They usually have you know, underscoring, or they have music that's through the transition is pumped through the speaker system. And what's great about Mega and Cap Rep is that no opportunity is missed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is filled. You don't want to have an extra and a wasted second. You know, we're going to get that period in there, and no wasted opportunities. So the period, to finish the sentence, and let's add something that progresses the story and makes people feel like they're almost watching one of those older movies where it was just magical how one thing seamlessly wove into the next, and the story didn't end until it said the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really great being able to do that.
So in this crazy time we call 2020, how are you plying your trade, Freddie?
Well, all theaters are shut, so my work with Cap Rep has come to a halt at this point. I work during the summer with the Broadway Camp series at Proctors. That came to a halt as well. I am still working at Union. We're on a trimester schedule, so we just finished. Now I'll be starting again the second week of January with them. But as you may know, I also do my classes, Broadway with Freddy Ramirez, and I usually use the space of a wonderful dance company. Unfortunately, with all the liabilities and regulations now, I've not been able to get back into the studio. So I have continued my classes online, virtually. And I have a really dedicated group of students that have followed me through this pandemic and continued our work together online. And I'm hoping that more and more people join in. I think even though it's a little bit of a, you know, left turn, it's given new students the opportunity that are, you know, to try something, not necessarily in the studio, you know, to fear judgment or whatever, which is silly because, you know, when you're in the arts, there's no such thing. You just put yourself out there. But they really have latched on to the virtual classes and really enjoy that they can do this in the comfort of their home without feeling self-conscious. And I think that also most of my students, their parents don't normally get the chance to see them working with me. Mm-hmm. And I think they really get a kick out of seeing their kids rocking out to these dance tunes, and they're getting impressed with the work that these young adults are doing. So it's, you know, it's amazing, but it's working out.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll continue doing virtual when the world reopens? You know, is this taking hold now for just the reason you said, that for some parents, they get to experience with their kids. For some kids, it's less threatening to do it in their home.
I think art is very much something that has to be kind of face to face, you know, like when it's almost like watching a movie on a screen. It's great, but it's so much more magical when you get to see a stage performance and you get to see these people do it in the moment and feel their energy. So I do want to return to the studio. I do think that I will continue some work virtually because some students do benefit from it. So I think I'm going to give the options. I'm going to remain having a virtual option for some students in some classes. And then once we get back to the studio, I'll continue all of them also, maybe doubling the classes in the studio.
Are you going to cast your net any wider than just the 518? Because, you know, Ella and I have been talking with folks over in the 413, you know, in the Berkshires, yeah. And they're finding, because they have more space in the summertime, to perhaps do a little more than we've been able to?
Mhm. I have no problem spreading my wings at all. I love to travel. I love to meet new people, new artists, new students, work with new energy. You know, aside from you being a teacher, you also learn from your students. And you know, if I meet a new group of students in the 413 you said, in that area, I would love it. It would give me another opportunity to make another base there, not another
Mhm.
home base, but a base there, and that would be great. I would definitely do that.
Okay, for every performer who's never taken a dance class, how much would that help them on stage? How much would it help you get us moving?
Well, I have a very open class model. If you've never taken a class with technique, I would offer you private lessons to bring you up to the level where my classes start at. And then that way you get all the information you need to work on. And obviously there's homework. As soon as you're done with the class, you have to keep working on it. It's like a guitar lesson. You got to keep playing it. And then when you're ready, you join the class. My other option is I do levels of classes. So one would be a beginner level, and then the other would be intermediate advanced. So that way, you know, you don't have to feel self-conscious about what you're doing, how you're learning, that kind of stuff. Yes, so I definitely offer a lot of options to get people going. And I'm a firm believer that there is no one out there that can't dance. Everyone's got some kind of rhythm. You just have to find it. And some people need you to kind of guide them along a little bit longer. And some people, they learn how to run before they walk. So, yeah.
Don't you, Ellen, feel like as we're talking, we should be doing jazz hands?
Yeah.
I'm doing them.
Right?
Now, tell us a little bit about your work with Proctors, because when I first heard about it, when I first moved here, you were talking to me about it, and I was like, oh, you know, I was thinking kind of more typical children's theater fare, and then you said, we just worked on Les Mis. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yes, Proctor's Summer Broadway Camp experience is no joke. Okay, so we hold the auditions just like you would for any capital rep or regional or Broadway production. We are very specific as to what our requirements are. You know, it is a training platform, so we do want to include as many students as possible so that they learn the art. But you know, they're also, we want to put on the best show possible. So when we've held the auditions and we've, you know, gotten the pool of students, some students think, oh, this is going to be kind of like a high school production. Not so much. Like, you have costume designer, you have a set designer, the set is built, the stage is actually the touring house stage, massive stage. You have a lighting designer, you have a sound designer. Everything that you do in any main stage production in a professional world, we do at the summer camp. And what's great is that the students also get to work hand in hand with them. So some of the students get to work with the lighting designers, some of the students get to work with the sound designers, some get to work with the backstage crew. I had a dance captain student come and help me, you know, teaching choreography, reminding them, because some kids' memory of choreography, since they're learning this all new, this is all new to them, they need reminders. The musical directors working not only with teaching the music, but also working with a full student orchestra. Now, I'm not talking about an adult playing a piano and the kids not doing much. No, everything is student performed. It's a huge undertaking, but we've done 4 productions, and all 4 productions have surpassed each year prior. It has been amazing.
With what's been on Broadway, obviously we're in pause now. What's excited you? Which shows have excited you? Because things are, you know, it's a mix up. It's not, you know, the traditional 50s, 60s, even 70s kind of musical. And that's where the world began changing. What do you like? What do you like watching? Whose work are you looking at?
Well, on Broadway, I have some favorites. Obviously, West Side Story has always been a very big part of my life. I have been lucky enough to play in 20 productions of West Side Story. Um, Half of them probably during the 50th anniversary. I don't know if you know who Josh Brigas is. I've been able to perform a couple of his productions as Bernardo. He's the one that choreographed Smash on TV and a bunch of Broadway shows. He's amazing. And that show has been a part of my life ever since I was young. My mother used to play the movie, you know, just because she adored it, and that passion passed to me. And West Side Story is one of my favorites to have seen on Broadway. And Rent, I thought Rent, when it first came out, was absolutely mind-blowing, spectacular. In the Heights, Hamilton, Wicked, really fun twist of a story that everyone knows, you know, that the Wicked Witch is not bad. She just, no one really understands her. I mean, there have been wonderful productions. I think those are my top ones.
So, speaking of Hamilton, I remember, like pretty much everyone in the world, I listened to the soundtrack, before seeing the actual show,
Mhm.
and, appreciated the music a lot. But then you see the show, and all the ensemble for me is that show. Like the choreography in that is just stunning.
Right, and that's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed that it's, informative. Obviously, the soundtrack, it has all this information, this history that, if you weren't a social studies kid, you really didn't remember all that stuff. But the music playing with the lyrics, you get it, and you
Hmm.
remember it. But exactly like you, Ellen, once I saw the show, the use of everything, the characters, the bodies, the costumes, the set, it was just non-stop amazing. Uh, like visual wonder. It was absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Freddie, is there a role that you still want to dance?
Yes, I want to dance all of them. I I started West Side Story playing Chino. I did 5 productions of that. Then I actually went into Pepe, which is Bernardo's right hand man. He's the second in command. And then I switched sides, and I tried my role at Action, and I played Action 3 times. It
Hmm.
was really awesome, um,
Wow.
to step out of my culture, my heritage, and portray something else. It was really wonderful, and that's the magic of theater. But my true role is Bernardo, and I would love to play Bernardo forever and ever and ever. There's so much passion in that show for me, and a lot of missed moments because of the whole thing that happened with America, with Robbins. But I would still love to do that role over and over and over.
It's interesting. We talked to Patrick White and Chris Foster last week, and they've put together a Facebook group that's 518 artists, and they just put polls every week, things that people post on. And one of their most recent ones was, "What is the perfect musical?" And
Mhm.
tons of people replied. I mean, there were hundreds of comments, and the number one pick was West Side
West
Story.
Side Story. West Side Story, and Gypsy, I think, is also really up there. Bonita was in Gypsy. She was fierce. Yes, no, I do agree. For me, West Side Story is number one.
It was all about the costume, Freddie.
You were amazing.
We've come to the time, I'm getting out of this. We've come to the time, well, I'll do jazz hands and say, Ellen has a couple of questions for you. This is a very specific thing we do, Freddie.
Okay.
This section is called the close up, and it's just some rapid fire questions just
Okay.
to hear all about you.
Oh
So,
my
Freddie,
gosh. Okay.
yay. So, Freddie, are you ready for your close up?
Let's do it.
All right. So, Freddie, what was the moment in your life when you knew that you just had to do theater?
I was watching a movie called Dead Poet Society in my living room on the TV, and I started crying, and I caught myself crying. I said, "Why the heck am I crying? This is a bunch of guys reading lines," and I said, that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
And what did your parents think when you said, I'm going
Well,
to go be a dancer?
my parents have always been very supportive. They said, whatever you do, just do it fully with your heart. And if you lose that passion, then move on to something else.
Hmm.
Very wise parents.
Yeah. Now, we heard that you would love to play Bernardo forever, but is there a show that you have not choreographed for, have not been in, that you would love to be part of?
Absolutely. When Rent was on Broadway, when it first opened in the 90s there, I had 13 callbacks for Angel. And for some reason or other, I never got the show. And they were feeding people in from the tour to for replacements. And I was really sad because I was so invested in that show. After the 13th callback, you kind of expect something. And I never got an answer as to why I didn't get cast in the show, but I would still love to play Angel.
The least they could have done was bought you a cocktail.
What would you say to someone who says, I have two left feet, I can't dance?
There's no such thing as I can't. At least to me, it's, do I have enough determination to get over whatever trick my mind is playing to figure it out. You know, some people just take a little longer to get something. Is it going to be perfect? Maybe not, but at least you'll get over the hump of having two left feet.
And here's the question I'd love to throw out there. And especially with maybe dance, there's a different kind of answer to this. But what's the biggest whoops that you've seen or been part of on stage? Something that just went horribly wrong.
Okay, let's see. There was a show that I was involved in that, not for me, but one of the ladies wearing a costume that was very, very skimpy, and the costume didn't work, and it actually popped open. Luckily, she had a big feather like fan to cover herself with, because it would have been a very different kind of show. Anything can happen. Anything can happen in live theater. I say it all the time. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
I have one. Do you have any routine that you have to do before a show, before you get out there? Is, you know, jump down, turn around, you know, tie your shoes 3 times, stuff like that.
Kind of like a ritual.
Yeah.
I don't do rituals, but if let's say, you know, for every show that you do, if you're doing a big musical with a lot of lyrics, and, you know, there's always going to be one section that's always going to be tricky. I don't know if it's a psychological thing that there's going to be a moment in a show that's always going to trip you up. But in the shows that I've done, the big productions, there's always kind of like a section that you just have to review before you get on stage. Okay, and the line is this, and this is the line that comes after that, and I have to anticipate because this is what's going on, and if I don't say it, someone else is going to trip up, you know. So yeah, just reciting certain lines, I would say would be a thing that I would do before I get on stage. And it doesn't mean it's before the show. It could be midway through the show and I just got off the stage and I have to say, okay, these are the lines before I go on, these are the lines before I go on.
And for our listeners, you know, if you want to see Freddy in action, I really enjoyed around Halloween time, you did a video on Cap Rep's page for the Thriller dance. And I didn't realize how difficult that dance is until I watched.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. There are so many details that people don't realize. I mean, once you break it down, you're like, oh my God, these people are really working hard. They're going to the ground, they're jumping up, their fingers are like this. Yeah, it was really fun to do. We got a chance to do a couple of minutes to keep people, you know, motivated and energized and dancing through the time of the pandemic.
Wonderful.
Well, it's been great fun having you, Freddy. Really.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. You guys are great. I miss seeing you guys. I look forward to a time when we can maybe sit down in person and have a cup of tea somewhere and reconnect.
We are there. We are so there. It's so well worth waiting for, Freddy. It's just delightful. Wishing you a happy and a healthy in the new year and a lot of work.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking forward to a lot of work. Nothing better than using your imagination and inspiring people. Yes.
Well said.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn, and we'll be looking for you next time. Take care.